All right, guys, back again. We got another episode of Consumed. On this episode, we're going to be tackling Liberty Expedia Holdings quarterly report. If you guys remember from last quarter, the video I did with Price Plow, I'll make sure that I link that below. You guys know that Liberty Expedia is actually the parent company of bodybuilding.com. So this kind of quarterly report is always a little bit more technical, I think, than some of the other ones in the industry, just because it is a part of a consolidated return with a kind of a bigger entity. But you know, I took a look at all this. I unpacked it a little bit for you guys. Hopefully, you guys get some value out of this. If you guys do have questions or anything that I didn't cover, make sure you guys do comment below. But getting into kind of the revenue numbers, they did $60 million this quarter. That was down 18% year over year. It was also down 9% quarter over quarter. So revenue has continued to slide less comparatively than the previous quarter. If you guys do remember, I think it was down about 25% year over year. But regardless, revenue is continuing to go down. And just to recap, like for 6 months, they're at $126 million for the first 6 months. That's down from $164 million in 2017. That's down about 23%. All right, guys, so obviously top line is important, but let's get down kind of like profitability wise, like what's going on operating income wise. Let's kind of dive into that a little bit. They said this was basically about a flat number in terms of profitability this quarter. I think actually it was probably close to a little less than $1 million of a loss. I think just the way that Liberty Expedia does their numbers in millions, it was just kind of like immaterial to the millions. So I think they broke it down to just zero. But if you kind of look a little bit more into kind of the footnotes, they did say there was a loss attributed to this quarter. But most of the loss, I think $5 or $6 million in the last 6 months, was attributed to the first quarter's numbers that were much worse. But just to kind of unpack a little bit of like why they're seeing both a decrease in top line sales and then also just kind of like a decrease in the overall profitability of the business. They're saying there's a 25% decrease in store visits. They are also saying there's about a 21% decrease in order volumes. They're saying most of this is from traffic directly to the site being less, also traffic from search engines being a little bit less. And if you guys have followed anything with search engines right now, especially consumer products, over 50% of consumer product searches start on Amazon right now. So if you think 5 years ago or more, when bodybuilding.com was at the height of their revenue, the majority of consumer product searches were started on Google. So with all the great content that bodybuilding.com had for all those years, they ranked really high on a lot of different things, and they had a lot of visits because of that. So obviously the landscape has changed a little bit in terms of search for consumer products, so they're feeling the hurt on those types of things. Also kind of some macro trends that are affecting bodybuilding.com, with Amazon being such a cultural shift in terms of what our expectations are on both ship time and shipping cost. They are seeing some costs going up with their shipping. That also is just kind of like a macro trend with consumer goods in general. Most logistical costs have been going up right now just because there's a shortage of drivers and trucking companies. Also a lot of rising costs with fuel and things going on right now. They're also seeing a decrease in their advertising revenue. Makes a lot of sense to me. If you guys do remember, like their all access shift to a paid paywall, a lot of the programs that were started with the all access were actually ones that were paid for by brands, be it like Muscle Farm, RSP, Diamond Ties, Muscle Milk. It doesn't really matter. You can think of any of the brands. They used to pay a monthly fee to have a collection of different kind of creative assets that could be produced from a month-to-month basis. So now with those things moving over kind of to the all access program, they've shifted kind of their model of how they're monetizing that piece of it. So we're seeing that still kind of try to prove out and see how long that's going to take for all access to kind of get some more momentum. But if you guys do remember from the last video, there's been a lot of negative comments towards it from both brands, influencers, kind of from all over the thing. But I think it was kind of a needed change for them to shift away from a free to a paywall of some sort. I think, with the backing of a large conglomerate like Liberty Media, they have all the resources available to create a kind of the over-the-top, fitness style Netflix. But we'll just have to see how long that's going to take for that to prove out. I think they need to obviously get a lot more content on there and a lot more attention that's getting towards there. I think they have a lot of smart people in their marketing department. I don't see why they won't be successful. I spent a lot of time thinking about different media company mentalities, especially in the fitness space, just because it's kind of my passion. And I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. I'm not seeing bodybuilding.com execute on a lot of them yet, but I definitely think there's some opportunity for them to grow with this all act. And then they made kind of like one more comment just on like discovery of competitor channels. I think, if you guys do follow anything with like nutritional supplement CPG, you guys know that internet retailing has shifted from kind of a specialty type of approach to being engulfed into more of the convenience value proposition. So the Amazons, maybe even like other marketplaces, or if you think about it from like a brick and mortar perspective, the same issues that specialty retailers like a GNC and a Vitamin Shop are dealing with a Walmart. It's kind of the same thing with bodybuilding.com. They're competing against an Amazon that has a convenience proposition, not so much of a price proposition, and it's hard for bodybuilding.com to try to compete with that on a one-to-one basis. So they have to kind of add value in different areas that Amazon is not interested in at this point. But I did actually, I did see that bodybuilding.com, like sometime during this quarter, they did start their own Amazon seller account for some of their branded products. I also think they're selling a few of their other products on there, probably through some agreement with some of their brands. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, my comment on that, it's kind of like a give and take. Though I think, especially private label, you need to create some switching costs and things to make sure people stick on, create a stickiness on your website. But on the flip side, there's a lot of traffic that's going, as I mentioned before, a lot of traffic that's going on Amazon right now, and buyers are going to want to buy where they want to buy. And if you're not available on where they want to buy, they're just going to go after the next best thing. So if you're typing in something and that's not on Amazon, rest assured Amazon's going to feed you something exactly what you wanted, but maybe a little bit, maybe 1% different. So I think bodybuilding.com, though it might not look very great for bodybuilding.com to kind of fold and be on Amazon, I think it's one of those things where they need to kind of do that. This is not any different than I think GNC's on there. I think Vitamin Shop's on there. Most other brick and mortar retailers are on there in some capacity. So I don't think this is anything that calling them out or doing anything like that. But I think it's definitely it's a sign of things that are changing for sure. So obviously all that information is not all that great. Bodybuilding.com, they did make a note there that bodybuilding.com did do a pretty good job at managing their costs through both from just a perspective of inventory or cost of goods, pricing with their branded partners. They also said that they consolidated some staff, which is not good from a people perspective, but from a business perspective, sometimes you have to do those types of things especially when you're losing revenue. And then it also said there were some gains they had from, I think, some of their like stock option or stock pricing that they had with, I'm assuming, most of their employees. So I think they saw a gain in that. So all that kind of, for this quarter at least, produced a pretty flat quarter in terms of profitability. Obviously not the goal in mind with their C-suite over there, but I think, quarter over quarter, they're seeing a good improvement on some business metrics. So they're definitely doing things to correct some of the challenges that are happening in the business, but we'll just have to take a look at that a little bit more. One of the other things that I noticed, just kind of like footnotes, if you guys have followed some of my other quarterly analysis videos, you guys know that I love footnotes. As accounting background, finance background, all the juiciest things are always in the footnotes. And not to say this is super juicy, but something to note. Both of bodybuilding.com's secured debt and kind of the revolving credit line were both like not in compliance this quarter because of some like financial covenants that were in there. They were able to restructure both of those by kind of the parent company taking on some of the onus on that. But obviously with the decline in some of their business, revenue, profitability, all those types of things, I'm sure there were certain covenants in their secured notes and in their kind of revolving credit line with their bank. So makes sense, but just something to kind of take a look at. And then one other kind of like macro regulatory thing that's going on, and most people probably internet retailing or e-commerce is paying attention to this. There was a recent Supreme Court ruling, I believe with the large internet retailer Wayfair, where basically the Supreme Court put down some new sales tax collection guidance. And if you guys know before, if you didn't have what they call kind of like nexus in a certain state, you didn't have to collect your sales tax. But now they're kind of saying, that is unfair competition comparable to kind of like brick and mortar. So they wanted to kind of clear up a lot of that. And what it's kind of doing to some of these internet retailers, especially internet retailers that are smaller, kind of like small teams. If you think, I think even like Mark Lobliner made a comment with like Tiger Fitness. The unfortunate thing is, it's not so much the issue of like from a tech perspective, collecting the tax from different orders, like from the customer standpoint, is not all that difficult. It's the accounting side of it that's going to increase costs like pretty heavy for a lot of people. If you're having a report in different states, each state has different rules, like by county, by all these things. Some of these states, like Ohio, where I grew up, has I think 88 counties. So if you think about that, there's just a lot of extra kind of like accounting that needs to be put into place, and it's going to add a lot of costs to these internet retailers. Now, somebody like Bodybuilding.com having the backing of a parent company, they can offset a lot of that through shared administrative kind of duties or things like that. That's a lot different than a Tiger Fitness or something that doesn't have that ability to do that. So I don't think that's going to hit Bodybuilding.com as much, but I think it's kind of a point to bring up just with internet retailing in general. So obviously a lot of information that was going on in this quarter for Bodybuilding.com. Though it wasn't as bad as last quarter, I still think anytime you're seeing a decrease in revenue is something that you shouldn't spin as overly positive. I was hoping by this quarter to have something in place with Bodybuilding.com to have a direct communication with them, with their C-suite. I was in kind of prior conversations with them to discuss, myself and them kind of having the ability to put some content out together to help people understand some of the changes they're having in their business right now, and kind of give their CEO or anybody in their C-suite the ability to discuss it a little bit more as an open forum. I think a lot of people have questions, and a lot of people still see them as a cornerstone of kind of the nutritional supplement market. And I think that people have a lot of questions right now, and I hope, over these next couple months, I'll be able to connect a little bit further with them and have the ability to share a little bit more from first person with them, and kind of maybe even interview style or anything like that. But just stay tuned to that. I want to thank you guys for sticking along on this video. I know these kind of financial videos can be a little bit dry, but I think they're important for you guys to understand kind of what's going on with just kind of the retailing side of the industry. If you guys do have any questions, comments, anything like that, make sure you guys are reaching out to me through any of my social medias or commenting below on this video. If you guys got some value out of this, make sure you guys are giving it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Helps me out a ton, and I'll see you guys on the next one.